Hi, it's Ryan Frank, and welcome to the YouTube version of my podcast. I'm so glad that you've tuned in. I am a pastor, an entrepreneur. I love talking about faith, family, and anything to do with leadership and productivity. So every week in my podcast, I talk to you about hacks that'll help you be a better leader. I share with you things that God is teaching me right now. I talked about what's going on in our family and in our businesses. I share with you resources and products and ideas you absolutely need to know about. And then I wrap up every week by talking about a quote. I'm a bit of a quote nerd, and so I love sharing good quotes with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, let's start today's episode. Hey friends, Ryan Frank, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad that you've turned in. Thank you so much for your time. Most importantly, thank you for your attention. Your attention is one of the greatest gifts that you can give me, and I am so grateful that you've tuned into the podcast. Whether you are watching today on YouTube or you're listening today, thank you. I hope that you have enjoyed the new format of the podcast. We are extending our podcast. They're about 30-45 minutes, doing them every week, and after taking like a 6 or 8 month hiatus from the podcast, we've been back now for the last 6 or 8 weeks. And I am so grateful that you're here with me. If we've never met, I'm Ryan Frank. I am a pastor. I'm a publisher. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a family man. And I love the Lord. I love people. And I'm so grateful that you've tuned in today. I'm going to talk to you today about how to avoid the copycat trap. One thing we do as leaders is we always want to innovate, right? But we want to avoid always simply copying what other people are doing. I'm also going to talk to you about the importance of waiting. Don't waste your waiting. If you're anything like me, it's very difficult to wait. And I want it now, right? But the old saying is true, that good things do come to those who wait. I'm going to talk about the latest and greatest in the Frank family. I'm going to give you an update on Frank Insurance Management and let you know about a business trip that I took this week and a few lessons that I learned. I'm going to share with you a resource that you absolutely must know about. It has to do with technology, so if you're into tech or you spend very much time on your computer screen, I encourage you to stick with me. And of course, we're going to wrap up today with a quote of the week by someone that I promise you that you've heard of, and it is one of my favorite quotes ever. So thanks for tuning into the podcast. We're going to kick things off with some teaching. I'm going to let you listen in to a training that I did a few weeks back titled Avoid the Copycat Trap. Now listen, I work with leaders all the time, business leaders, ministry leaders, and I encourage leaders to innovate, right? To look at what problems could they solve and what's a better way to solve them, to think of a solution that no one else has thought of, to innovate. And I love it that so many of you are innovators. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to just copycat what everybody else is doing. And that's what I'm going to talk about in today's training. While yes, there are times that it's okay to copycat. It makes sense. If somebody's figured something out, do it. But you know what? When you copycat as a way of life and leadership, boy, you know what? You miss out on so much. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I would rather you hear it as I presented it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's transition to a leadership hack of the day, avoiding the copycat trap. So I remember several years back, about 5 years ago probably now, when we decided that we wanted to have a conference for kids pastors. We knew we wanted to do it different. We wanted to innovate. We wanted to disrupt what they would say in marketing, disrupt the market. And what that means is you got to do it different to get people's attention. And we wanted to go at it in a fresh way. And so we made some changes. We started thinking, okay, if we were going to create a children's pastors event from scratch, which we wanted to do, and we were going to whiteboard it, what would it look like? And let's forget any other model that we know. And so that first year, a lot of you were there in Nashville. All of our partners were there for free. We just said, come, free. Normally it's thousands of dollars to go and be a partner at an event. and we looked at what's it normally cost to go to a conference, and we saw it's between $300 and $400. And so we decided we need to make it affordable, and we want it to be under $100 that first year. And the only way we could do that was by having it at a church. And we also wanted to have it at a church. We thought we want this to have a local church feel. I know most conferences are at convention centers, but boy, that gets so expensive. And the other way, the other way we could keep the price down was not only have it at a church, but we knew we were going to have to run this with volunteers, because if we start hiring a bunch of people to build this conference, our ticket prices are going to have to go up. So my point is, most of you have been to MegaCon and you support the conference every year, and it blesses you. And while we've had to increase the price a little bit, it's still significantly less than most other events. We're trying to innovate. My point is, we decided that we needed to think like innovators when it came to a conference. We did the same thing with Kidman Academy. And, how do we reinvent? And I want you to always be willing to question things. Like a kid question things. My 6-year-old or 7-year-old at home, Lily, she's so curious, and she's always questioning things. And why do things happen that way and this way? And why do we do this? Because she's curious. And here's something I'm committed to now more than ever, and hear it from me right now, because I need you to help keep me accountable. I'm getting older. I understand that. A couple of years, I'll be 50. That seems really, really weird to me, but it's true. I'm getting older, and as I grow older, I want to grow wiser, but I also want to grow more and more curious. A lot of times you think that the curious ones are the kids, that the kids are the ones that grow curious, and as you get older, you grow wiser. I want to grow wiser, and I want to grow to be more and more curious about what is and what could be, and why do we do that, and why do we have to do it that way. And if you in your children's ministry can think like an innovator, and if you can be curious, and if you can learn to ask good questions, I'm telling you what, God will richly bless you, and you'll be able to accomplish things that you would not have been able to accomplish otherwise. So that's really what we're going to get into next week when you log into the student portal. I think it's next week. That video will be there on how to think and act like an innovator. Now, what I want to talk to you about today is this. One thing that innovators do is innovators create. There's a big difference between creating and being a copycat, right? Big difference between being creating something and copying what someone else is doing. So I want to talk to you today about how not to be a copycat, or how to avoid being a copycat. And if we could have one of the, maybe Mary Veal, if you wouldn't mind, or one of you, if you would, I'm going to share 5 or 6 points. If you would drop these points into the chat for me, that would be amazing. That way, if somebody misses a point, they'll have it. Let me open up my chat, make sure my chat's working. Mary, thank you. Mary said she'll do it. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, I love studying leaders. I love following leaders. I love identifying people that that can be a role model in my life. But one of the worst things you can do, and one of the worst things I can do, is simply copy what other people do, okay? Now, we'll talk about this when we get to the end. There are times where it's okay to copy what somebody has done, but it can also be a huge, ginormous trap. And that's what I want to warn you about today, is to try to avoid the copycat trap. Now, how do you do that? How do you think like a creative person, and how do you get the courage to create instead of always just copying what someone else is doing, another ministry is doing, another kids pastor is doing, someone else that I look up to? How do I keep from copying what they're doing? Here's number 1, Mary, so you can type it in for me. Ask more why questions than how questions. Ask more why questions than how questions. Now, I love the I Love Kidman Facebook community. It's amazing to me that it's grown to over 26,000 members. 85% of the members, Facebook say, are actively engaged in the Facebook group. It's a wonderful group. I love it. I love reading what you guys are saying. I love looking at the questions that you're asking. But I'm going to be honest with you, here's one thing I don't like about the I Love Kidmin Facebook community, is that I see a lot more how questions than I see why questions. Oh, that looks so cool. How did you do it? Oh, I've always wanted to do that. How did you do it? Right? Now, if you ask the how question, that's not a bad question to ask, but there's a better question to ask, and that is, why did you do it? Now, Mary, I'm going to copy and paste from my notes for you because I don't want you to have to type both of these verses in. I'm going to copy and paste 2 verses into the chat. I hope they show up. Let's see here. Okay, you see those in the chat? Look at these 2 verses. Proverbs 1:5. Let the wise hear and increase in learning. It doesn't say let the wise talk and increase in learning. It says let the wise hear. Second verse, Proverbs 18:15. An intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. You want to get to the why. So why did you choose to structure that way? So why did you choose to recruit that way? So why did you choose to eliminate that program? When you get to the why, you learn a whole lot more. And in understanding the why, you're then able to build something that will connect with what you're wanting to do, or will contextualize to what you're wanting to do. So here's a problem with that, just asking how questions. Because Mary Veal down in Indianapolis did it this way, doesn't mean that it's going to work for Marcy's group in Oklahoma City, because the people are different, right? The culture is different. And even for Mary's church in Indianapolis and the church on the north side of Indianapolis, the DNAs of their church are different. So what works for one might not be a great fit for the other, but in asking the why questions, then asking the how, you're going to be set off to be a creative like never before, and not just a copycat. Okay, here's number 2. Here's number 2. Study the journey that others have taken. Study the journey that others have taken. See, here's the thing with copycats, and I've been guilty of this, okay, where I find somebody that I look up to, and I really want to be like them. And man, what are they doing? I've got to copy what they're doing because I want to be like them. Everybody, all you ladies out there, your Bible teachers, you want to teach like, if I could just teach like Beth Moore or Priscilla Shirer, if I could just communicate like that. For me, it's more like, boy, if I could just communicate like a Craig Groeschel, if I had the wisdom of a John Maxwell. But here's what you forget. Craig Groeschel, yes, while he pastors one of the largest churches in America, he didn't start that way. His church started in his garage, right? And so if I study his journey and I learn, what was it like going from a garage to being the pastor of one of the largest churches in America, that they're innovating like crazy. Someone forwarded me an article a couple weeks ago that they've launched a new campus, and it's a virtual reality campus. Y'all seen these virtual reality glasses that kids wear to play games? They're launching a virtual reality campus for people that are into virtual reality, okay? Craig Groeschel and his team, they think like innovators. Study their journey. Study their journey. I love reading Sam Chand and studying Sam Chand. He's a John Maxwell type, and Sam's got great wisdom, and he's such a great leader. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Sam didn't start with this huge platform where he's helping leaders. In fact, it's a pretty neat story. I'll tell you, I wasn't planning on telling you the story, but I will, because if you hear me talk much, you hear me mention Sam's name from time to time. Sam, well, he now has this huge platform helping some of the largest some of the leaders in the largest churches and organizations in America. He came to the United States on a sponsorship to go to Bible college. Someone sponsored his way to go to Bible college. And after his first year of Bible college, his sponsor lost his job and called and said, "Sam, I'm sorry, but I can't sponsor you anymore." And so Sam had to drop out of college. He literally, I've heard him say it out of his own mouth, he went dumpster diving for food. I mean, here he was, he moved from India to America on a sponsorship. Then his sponsorship dried up. He had nowhere to live, nowhere to eat, nothing to eat. And he ended up getting a job as a janitor at this Bible college, and ended up making enough money where he could re-enroll in the Bible college, and got married. And what's really neat part of Sam's story is that one day, years later, he got a phone call from that same college, the same college that told him he couldn't attend anymore because he didn't have the money, and the same college where he served as a janitor. And guess what they wanted? They wanted to know if Sam would be their next college president. He went from janitor to college president. You see, when you study someone's journey, you'll learn about what kind of disciplines do they have in their life. What did they learn that got them from point A to point B? Take some time to study people's lives, to learn their journey, and it'll help you think like a creator and a problem solver, as opposed to someone who just copycats what everybody else does. Here's number 3. Be confident in who you are. This will help you not just be a copycat. And that is to be confident in who you are. Now, my wife tells me that I don't have an insecure bone in my body, and I don't know that I do. Really, that's one thing. I have a list of faults and weaknesses that I'm not going to share with you because it's none of your business, just like yours are none of my business, right? But insecurity has never been one of my problems. You know, you can put me in a room with anybody, and I've never dealt with insecurity, and I'm thankful for that, and I'm grateful for it. But I'll be honest, we can all, I suppose that's not true. There's times I might be a little insecure. We all would probably deal with little insecurity from time to time, some more than others. But you got to do whatever you can to fight that insecurity. And a lot of times our insecurity comes from comparing ourselves to other people. And, you know, we look around and we get on our phones and we start scrolling through Instagram. We start looking at what everybody else is doing and what their kids look like and what their house looks like and what their vacation looks like, what their clothes look like, what their hair looks like, what their car looks like. And all of a sudden we start thinking, man, the grass really is greener on the other side. As you know, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Be careful about comparing yourselves to others. Comparing yourselves to others is a huge, huge trap. Instead, find confidence in who you are and who God created you to be. Psalm 139:14. Write that reference down. It's a good one. I know you've heard it before. Psalm 139:14. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Ephesians 2:10. I'll copy and paste these for you into the chat. How about that? Ephesians 2:10. Mary, you're on it. Thank you so much. Ephesians 2:10, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works. You know, here's the thing. When you really start to look into the eyes of Jesus, instead of looking at others and comparing yourselves to others, you're going to realize that nothing really matters anyway, except for what Jesus thinks of you. And you're not average. Listen to me, Kidmin Academy students. Julie, Katie, Kayla, Kim, Lisa, Lori, Marcy, Abigail, Mary, all of you, you're not average. You are blessed. Okay, you're blessed. You, if as a child of God, you have royal blood flowing through your veins. God is writing a story in your life that is unique to you and to no one else. So don't compare yourself to someone else. Don't compare your ministry to someone else in town or to the mega church in town. Don't compare what you're doing to what you saw someone else doing in the I Love Kidmin Facebook group. Don't do it. It's a big trap, okay? And it'll help you avoid being a copycat. If you're like, I don't have to copy what everybody else is doing to be good, right? God has made me and wired me exactly how he wants me to be. Now, I have 2 more points, then we're going to do some Q&A if you have them. If you don't have them, that's fine. But if you do have any questions about anything, it doesn't have to be about innovation. If you just want to pick my brain on anything, use that Q&A button and we'll get to the questions in a few minutes. Here's number 4. Be willing to fail. Be willing to fail. Here's the thing. If I am afraid to fail, I'm going to only try to copycat what other people have done that I think have achieved success. The problem is you're only seeing what they want you to see. It's like Instagram, right? You're looking at the pictures that have been posed. You're not seeing what happened the night before or the day before. Be willing to fail. Be willing to fail. We used to, in fact, Amber, we might want to come back to this in the magazine. The first several years of Kids Matter magazine, we had a whole column called the Oops File, where we would publish stories from our readers of things they tried in kids ministry that failed and what they learned from it. You can learn from your failures. I can learn from your failures. You can learn from my failures. Okay? Be willing to fail. Now, John Maxwell says fail, but fail forward, right? In other words, it's like falling forward. When you fall, don't fall back, fall forward. The point is, I'm learning through my failure. Now, God will help you in your failure. Look at your chat. I'm going to put a verse in here for you. Proverbs 24:16. For a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again. A just man falls 7 times and rises up again. Listen, you can fail, but here, the thing is this, listen, the point is not, are you going to fail? It's when are you going to fail? Okay? The point is not, will I fail? You're going to fail. I'm going to fail. The point is, am I going to rise back up again? That's what's going to make you different than everybody else. Because listen, it's easy to fail and stay down. It's easy to fail and go backwards. It's easy to fail and give up. It's easy to fail and lose heart. It's easy to fail and beat your own self up. What's difficult, but what can happen with God's grace, and when you're confident in yourself and in who God has created you to be, what makes you different is you don't just fall 7 times, but you get back up. You get back up. Because here's the thing, kids. Here's the thing, Kidmin Academy. You are not a failure. Look at me. You're not a failure. You are a student. And if you approach life that way, and if you approach your ministry that way, then I'm not a failure. I'm a student. I am learning along the way. You're going to be so much better. You're going to be so much more ready to create instead of just copycat. Okay, let's go number 5. Let's go to number 5. Surround yourself with the right people. Surround yourself with the right people. This will help you gain the confidence that you need and the boldness that you need and the strength that you need to create. Maybe some of you have been wanting to launch a new program. Maybe some of you, you've been feeling like it's time to move on, it's time to go. Maybe for some of you, there's some kind of a business that you've wanted to start on the side, or some kind of a new ministry that you've wanted to start, or maybe you've always wanted to write a book, or maybe you've wanted to start a podcast. Maybe I don't know. Whatever it is, here's my thing. What'll help give you the strength to actually do it is to surround yourself with positive people that are positive, people that dream big, people that have faith. Because people, listen, everyone that you come in contact with has the power to either bring you up or push you down. I was just talking to my wife about this last night on the phone. She's out of town right now, by the way. We weren't talking on the phone at home, okay? I was just telling my wife this on the phone about somebody, and I said, I don't hang around that person, right? I avoid that person. Now, I love that person in the Lord, but I'm not going to spend time with that person. Why? Because that person brings me down. Their negativity brings me down. They're not a lifter. You need to now be friends to everybody, okay? Yes, you can be friendly. Now, let me reword that. Be friendly to everybody. Love everybody in the love of the Lord. But your friends, your inner circle, they need to be lifters. People that are helping you dream bigger, think bigger, think positively. Oh, the sun's shining. Sorry, that's a rabbit trail. We don't see that much this time of day in Indiana, time of year in Indiana. It's gray skies. I see some sun. Okay, I just had to pause and make that public service announcement. I'd probably walk outside if I weren't with you right now. Be around the right people. Be around the right people. Proverbs 13:20 says, whoever walks with wise people becomes wise. You need to evaluate the people that are the closest to you. Do they help give you the confidence that you need to create what you need to create? If you don't have those people in your life, pray that God would send them your way. Be that for somebody else. Now, let me wrap up. Amber, you're listening in. You got about a 3-minute warning, 3 minutes. Let me mention a couple of things. One, sometimes imitation is okay. Sometimes imitation is okay. Sometimes it's okay to imitate what someone else is doing. Let me give you an example. Last year, about this time, my daughter London and I decided we wanted to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Now, I've tried to solve a Rubik's Cube before with zero luck. And she had a teacher at school that knew how to solve a Rubik's Cube. So I bought us each a Rubik's Cube. And I decided we're going to learn how to do this. But I said, London, we're not just going to take this Rubik's Cube and try to figure it out. We need to learn from someone who already knows how to solve a Rubik's Cube. And one of the best places to go is the #2 search engine in the world when you need to figure out how to do something, YouTube, right? Did you know that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world after Google? People go to YouTube to get answers to things. I do that. You probably do too. And we found a YouTube video on how to solve a Rubik's Cube using a storytelling method for kids. The only way I could learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube was to watch a video that taught kids how to solve a Rubik's Cube. So I actually started, and it took me about a week. And I was so proud of myself. Now I can still solve the Rubik's Cube. I practice. I'll work on the Rubik's Cube at home at night, watching TV. I don't want to ever forget how to solve a Rubik's Cube. I can solve a Rubik's Cube. Probably takes me 5 minutes, right? because I don't think as fast. Now, so here's what happened. I learned how to solve it. I showed it to London. I said, London, I want you to learn it the same way I did watching this video. And we were leaving for a trip. And I said, sis, I think if you work on this week while we're on this trip, by the end of the week, you'll have it figured out too. God honest truth, 3 hours later, she had it figured out. And while I say that I can solve a Rubik's Cube in 5 minutes, the last time we timed her, she's like 1 minute and 22 seconds or something like that. So she can just solve it really fast, and I've got to go really slow. And it's been a fun hobby for both of us. And now we create we collect all these different kinds of Rubik's Cubes, which I have over there. I'll have to show you sometime. But my point is, sometimes imitation's okay. Hey, if someone else has figured out how to do something faster than you or smarter than you, if someone else has learned how to crack the code on something, talk to them, imitate what they've done. But copying and imitating can be a trap for a couple reasons. One is, if you always try to copycat what someone else is doing, you're going to never really be yourself, right? And that's really a shame, because listen, Kayla, Katie, all of you, God has created you as an amazing individual that can do things that no one else can do. I mean, we can eat. God has wired us each uniquely. So it's a shame if you're always copycatting, because you're capable of doing some stuff and creating some really neat things and solving some neat problems yourself. Also, because here's another reason why it can be a trap, and that is it can also push you to where you're never really scared and you're never really trusting in the Lord. And you're never really taking those steps of faith that you need to take, because I'll just copy what somebody else is doing. So be willing to have the guts to not copycat and try something else. Now, here's what I want you to do right now. This is your assignment. Okay, you need to get your phone out. I want you to do this sometime this afternoon. You don't have to do it now, although I would love for it if God's brought something to your mind. If you would text me right now. What has God been telling you to do? And where do you need to stop copying and start creating? What's something that during this talk, the last 30 minutes, that God has put his finger on in your heart? And I want you to text it to me. And I don't want you to put it in the chat or whatever, because I'm going to text you back just a word of encouragement to encourage you in that. And I want to give you each an individual word of encouragement. So text me. Now, those of you that are watching this replay, you're not going to see the chat. So let me tell you my number: 765-441-4598. 765-441-4598. What's God been telling you to do? Where do you need to stop copying and start creating? Amber, jump back on here with me. I'm not seeing that we have very many questions, which is fine, because I have something else we can talk about here at the end. Here are 2 resources. No, just one, actually. Okay. Well, I'll show you both of these just for fun. This is something that early on in my ministry helped me begin to think like an innovator, probably like nothing else. And that is when I read Seth Godin's book, Purple Cow. I wish I would have dated when I bought this book. The pages are turning yellow, if that tells you how long ago I bought it. Oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like it's been 15 years ago. Purple Cow. Any of you ever read Purple Cow? If you have it, it's a great read by Seth Godin. Seth is a marketing guru. And the point of Purple Cow is, if you're driving, let's say you're driving up to Wisconsin. Every summer we go up to Wisconsin for camp. And when you're driving to Wisconsin, here's what you pass. You pass cow pasture after cow pasture after cow pasture. and all those cows look the same. But what would happen if you're driving through Wisconsin, looking at mile after mile after mile of black and white cows, and you look to your right, and there is a purple cow? You'd be like, no way. You'd stop the car, you'd get out, you'd start taking pictures, and you'd tell everybody about it. You'd get on your phone and post picture to Facebook, and you'd call your mom, and you would go back home, and you would drive back there next year to see if the purple cow's still there. That purple cow would be remarkable. Now, what's remarkable? If something is remarkable, it is worthy of remark. How many of you can figure that out with no help? Did you get that, Amber?
I got that.
Okay, Amber got it. To have something that's remarkable, this is the point of the book, you have to create some purple cows. You have to create something that gets people's attention, that they're going to talk about. Now, earlier at the beginning of the call, I talked about MegaCon. We wanted MegaCon to be a purple cow, a conference that you can go to for like $150, where they give away a car, and all those are that. Here's one reason why we always give away a car. Now, I say always, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet, but this may be the first year. I've never said this publicly, we don't give away a car, because we're going to do something else instead. Well, here's why we gave away the car: because it was a purple cow. What other kids pastors conference can you win a car, right? But here's what I don't want. That car has been remarkable. People have remarked about it. But I fear if we give away a car every year, it's not going to be as remarkable anymore. So we need a new purple cow that everybody's going to talk about. So as a young kids pastor, I read this book. I'm like, man, I've got to create some purple cows in my ministry. And if you create some purple cows that the kids talk about and the parents talk about, and everybody in town knows that your church does this, those are purple cows. Now, I said at the beginning, I have two books, because when I pulled this off the shelf to show you, this book was beside it. And I pulled it down because I want to take it home and I want to read it, because it's been forever. I forgot about it. It's another Seth Godin book called Free Prize Inside. And it's all about how to create a remarkable experience for your customers and for the people that you serve. Kind of like that free prize inside always captures people's attention. What's the free prize? I want to take this. The nice thing about these old Seth Godin books is they're pretty easy reads. And in this book, he talks about how you need a free prize. So I'm taking this home tonight. I'm going to read it this weekend. So friends, what has God been telling you to do, and what's keeping you from doing it? Let's transition to what God is teaching me right now. If you're anything like me, you do not like to wait. In fact, it's very easy for me to despise the wait. But one thing I'm learning with these few gray hairs that those of you watching on YouTube can see if you look close enough is not to despise the wait. You know, someone in the Bible who spent a lot of his time waiting was David. Stop and think about it. You know, he waited some 10 or 15 years before the prophet Samuel anointed him to be king. You know the story. David was the youngest of 8 sons. His father did not think that he would be the king or be anointed to be the king. He overlooked him. But what Jesse didn't realize was that God doesn't always see what we see, right? He doesn't look on the outward appearance. He looks on the heart. He waited. And then as a young man, Josephus, the historian, says that David was 10 years old when he was anointed king. Most commentaries say he was 15. Whether he's 10, 15, here's what we know. He had to wait another 15 years before he became the king of Israel. Now, David, if you study his life as king, he was a type A leader. He was a go-getter. He was not afraid to step up and lead. Yet, that crown did not come right away. He had to wait. Are you willing to wait? Psalm 30:15, God reminds us that our times are in his hands. God never wastes the times that you're waiting. In fact, while you're waiting, God is working. See, God was working in the heart of David, preparing him to be the king of Israel. Now, what are you waiting for? Maybe it's for a financial breakthrough. Maybe it's for a promotion. Maybe you're waiting for a miracle with your health or in your family. Don't despise the waiting. And don't underestimate what God is doing during your seasons of waiting. Be patient and wait on the Lord. In the latest and greatest segment of the Ryan Frank podcast, I want to give you an update on Frank Insurance Management. Now, Beth and I are entrepreneurs, and we own a car wash, a drive-through convenience store, lots of apartments around the state of Indiana. We love entrepreneurism, we love sales, we love marketing. Our heart is ministry. Our heart is, we love pastors, we love people, we love being good to people, being generous, blessing people. And because we needed one more thing to do, in addition to Kids Matter and all of the other stuff we have going on, we launched Frank Insurance Management. Someone asked us a few months back, very kind, but asked, why? Why start one more thing? And our answer was quite simple, because we want to and because we can, right? It's just the way we're wired. This past week, our agency manager and myself took a brief 3-day trip to Allen, Texas. In Allen, Texas, we passed the giant, and I mean giant, headquarters of Mary Kay Cosmetics. Talk more about that in a few minutes. But that was not the purpose of our trip, to get stocked up on our makeup. The purpose of our trip was to visit one of the Quantum Assurance offices. Quantum Assurance is the service provider for Frank Insurance Management. So we met with their CEO, some of their executives. We walked the floor and listened to their sales team, the people on the front lines making calls. We walked around and listened to their service department servicing the clients as the calls came in. We talked about strategy. We talked about all kinds of good stuff. And it was a good reminder to me that you don't want to make decisions alone. Whether you're new at something, which we are in insurance, or whether you've been at it for years, it never hurts to talk through things with people, right? Now, some of you just like to go. Your motto in life is ready, fire, aim. But don't forget, your motto really needs to be ready, aim, fire. And we sat down and asked some questions on recruiting people, keeping your team engaged, right? How do you keep people to their performance goals that they have set? How do you clearly identify roles within the organization? I'm telling you, for somebody that's new in this industry, I was a sponge. And I walked away with note after note after note and a reminder that I don't want to do it alone. I don't want to make decisions alone. There is power. This is why the Bible says that there is safety in the multitude of counselors. Whatever it is that you're doing, don't do it alone, right? Find people that you can talk to. Walk around, listen, ask questions. It was a wonderful, wonderful trip. If you're not following Frank Insurance Management, please give us a follow. You can go to our website, frankinsurancemanagement.com. The website is there. It's not fully functioning because we will roll out the website with a phone number and the whole 9 yards here, Lord willing, in 2 weeks. But we are making sales. We are, for the last 2.5 months, writing policies, and it's been a wonderful journey. You can follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. All of our social links are at frankinsurancemanagement.com. In the latest and greatest, I want to let you know about an external monitor that I bought for when I'm traveling or when I'm on the run. Now, within the last year, I have added some monitors to my computer at my office. I have 2 external monitors. They're curved, they're beautiful. I love my external monitors, right? I was finding that my posture was bad, and my eyes, the older I get, my eyes don't work as good. Buying 2 external monitors that are bigger and getting them up off the desk a little bit, help my posture. It helps me be more productive. I can keep different things on different screens. But then what about when I'm working from home or when I'm traveling? Well, my brother-in-law, Jay, big shout out to brother-in-law Jay, had 2 external monitors on vacation over Christmas break. And I've got to tell you, I was a little bit jealous. So I bought one. I haven't bought 2, I just bought one. If you're watching the YouTube version of the podcast, you get to see what I'm talking about. It comes in a nice travel case like this, kind of like an iPad. And you open it up, and the brand is Boyfun. B-O-I-F-U-N. B-O-I-F-U-N. This is a 15.8 inch external monitor that connects through USB. Or there's different ways to connect it. On my computer, I connect it through USB. The case turns into a stand. It is super light. It's super portable. You can use it as a secondary monitor for your computer, for your iPad, for your phone. You can plug it into your gaming system. It's a little over $150 on Amazon. I will put a link in the show notes in case you want to go check it out on Amazon. It's a resource you must absolutely know about. I absolutely love it. It is my 15.8 inch Boyfun, if I said that right. I don't know, how would you say it? B-O-I-F-U-N. Portable monitor. In our quote of the week, I told you the other day I was driving through Texas, flew into Dallas and headed to Allen, Texas, and I passed the Mary Kay Cosmetic headquarters. We were driving, and I'm like, what is that ginormous building? And it said Mary Kay in Addison, Texas. Now, Mary Kay Ash, of course, was a world-renowned American businesswoman. She was the founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics. She serves as an amazing example for business professionals, for entrepreneurs. And I'm amazed at the volume of sales that Mary Kay Cosmetics reaches every year. A few years back, they were the 6th largest network marketing company in the world with a wholesale volume, this is in 2018, of $3.25 billion in sales. One day Mary Kay said this, you probably have heard the quote, pretend that every single person you meet has a sign around his or her neck that says, make me feel important. Now, what would happen if every person you encountered, you imagined that they had a sign around their neck that said, make me feel important? One thing I try to do every day is I try to make people feel special. I try to bless people, and I want to be good to people, to my employees. I want to be good to my followers. I want to be good to my friends on social media. I want to be good to the people that I see at the gas station, even at Walmart. Here's the quote, pretend that every single person you meet has a sign around his or her neck that says, make me feel important. Now, friends, as we wrap up the podcast, I'd love to get your feedback. Will you text me and tell me what you thought about today's episode? My number is 765-441-4598. 765-441-4598. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe. Love it if you'd give a review. And then share it with some leaders in your organization or someone that would benefit from my teaching. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.